Hi, today we are going to look at Exodus chapter 20, verse 12, and that is the fifth commandment. The fifth commandment in Exodus 20, verse 12 states, "Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you." Now, this commandment is so important that it is the only commandment in the entire Bible that gives us the reason or the reward for observing this law. Now, if you are going to build a society in which children will honor their parents, that society will survive long. When children honor their parents, they honor God's design for healthy families, which are the building blocks for a functioning society. But a society where children do not honor their parents, that society is doomed to self-destruction. Now, we can observe nowadays the erosion of this kind of values in our society. Parents are having more and more problems with their children. Now, Apostle Paul warned us of the time in the future in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. And this is what he said. There will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, etc., etc. Also in Romans chapter 1, verse 28 to 31, this is what Apostle Paul wrote. And since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a base mind and to improper conduct. They were filled with all manners of wickedness, evil, covetousness, malice, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malignity. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, haughty, boastful, inventors of evil. And then he said, disobedient to parents, foolish, faithless, heartless, ruthless. So it seems to be that Apostle Paul is putting disobedience to parents in the level of all of this wickedness that people are going to be during the last days. Now, why is honoring to parents so important to God? Why does the Ten Commandments believe that the society could not survive if this commandment were widely violated? Now, first of all, the reason for that is that it is the natural chain of authority given by God. Parents are given authority by God to take charge over their children. Now, honoring parents is how nearly all of us come to recognize that there is a moral authority above us to whom we are morally accountable to. And without this, we cannot create or maintain a moral society. And so it is very difficult to come to honor God without having had a parent, especially a father, to model it. One's attitude towards one's father largely shape one's attitude towards God. In other words, how you are related to your father will also greatly shape your attitude towards God. Kung unsa imong relasyon sa imuhang amahan dinhi sa yuta, maka apektar sana sa imong relasyon ngadto sa imong amahan sa langit. Now, we need the authority that sets the boundaries for us. Now, study shows that children who grew up without fathers will tend to grow up with social, mental, and emotional problems. So when kids obey their parents, they are obeying God. And because in essence, parents stand in the gap for God until children are old enough to be accountable to God for themselves. So the fifth commandment is setting kids up for obeying God and relating to God in a proper and biblical way. So when kids understand authority in the context of family, then they can grow up and understand authority in the context of a healthy society. And so it seems to be that the fifth commandment stands in transition between the first four commandments, which shows to us our relationship towards God. And in the sixth to the 10th commandment, we show us our relationships towards other people. So the fifth commandment, it seems to be like a transition. So in a way, it is the parents is going to nurture your children so that they can have a good relationship with God. And they are also going to nurture their children so that they can have a good relationship with other people. So this is the context of the fifth commandment. And that is why God looks at this fifth commandment as a very important commandment for the foundation and the sustenance of a society. Secondly, we must obey this commandment because it is wise to do so. It is wise to do so. Now, the children will learn much from the wisdom and the experience of their parents. In Proverbs chapter 3, verse 1, it says, "A wise son listens to his father's advice, but a proud son will not listen to correction." Proverbs 23, verse 22, it also says, "Listen to your father's advice and do not despise an old mother's experience." Another one in Proverbs 6, 20 to 22. "Obey the teaching of your parents. Always keep it in mind and never forget it. Their teaching will guide you when you walk, protect you when you sleep, and talk to you when you are awake." And so when children will obey their parents, it will be wise for them to do so. Because their parents is the source of all wisdom that they are going to need in their future life. And so when a child honors their parents, when a child obeys their parents, when a child listens to his parents, he will have a good future ahead of him. So it is wise for children to honor their parents because they are going to have a wealth of wisdom and experience that they can get from them. The nurturing that they can get from the parents to prepare them for the future ahead. Number 3 reason why we should obey this commandment. Our parents deserve honor from their children. The parents deserve honor from their children. Now, our parents gave life to all of us. We will not be alive today without our parents. They also provided us with everything that we needed. We are what we are today because of our parents. Parents deserve honor from their children. They gave life to us. And I will not be alive today if it will not be for them. Now, our DNAs, the way we are made, our giftedness, our personalities, makes us unique. And the contribution of our father and our mother's DNA make us unique as we are today. So they provided not only the DNA so that I can be a unique person today, they gave life to me. They also provided me with everything that I needed. They have sacrificed so much for me. Our parents have sacrificed so much for us. One person once said, a father is someone who has photos where he used to have money. So just look at the sacrifices of the parents that they are doing for the children. Now, our parents or your parents are the only people other than God who loves us unconditionally. These are the only people that we are very sure that will lay down their lives for us. So, our parents deserve honor and respect from us. Now, we may ask the question, how can we honor our parents? How can we honor our parents? I divided this into two because it depends on the status or the age that you are right now. And so if you are still living under your parents, you are still dependent on your parents, you are still living in the house of your parents, you honor them differently than when you are already living independently from them. If you are married already, or if you have already your own home or your own job, and you are no longer dependent for them, you have different ways of honoring their parents. And so first of all, we are going to look at how we are going to honor our parents when we are still under their authority. How are children to honor their parents when the children are still under the authority of their parents? So first of all, these children that are still under the authority of their parents, living still with their parents, is that they can honor their parents, first of all, by obeying them. by obeying them. And obedience must be immediate. So dili maglangay-langay kung suguon sa mga ginikanan. Sometimes when the parents will call their children and tell them to do something, they will just say, "Oh, later," or "in a minute," or "unya na lang," and then they forget all about it. Then later on, it's the parents that will do the chore for them. So, obeying them immediately. Another one, obeying them willingly. No? Sometimes the children, even though they will obey their parents, but they are doing it with, pouty lips, or maybe they are dragging their feet, or maybe they are grumbling. That is not the way to honor our parents. We obey them immediately and willingly, and also cheerfully, that we will be glad to do the things that they want us to do. That's how we honor our parents. In Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1, this is what Apostle Paul wrote. "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right." So obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. So Apostle Paul is telling us when we obey our parents, we are doing something that is right. Colossians chapter 3, verse 20. It says, "Children, obey your parents in everything." Children, obey your parents in everything. Can you imagine? In everything. "For this pleases the Lord." And so when children obey their parents in everything, this is pleasing to God. So when you obey your parents, it's just like you are also obeying God, because the authority that is given by God to your parents, when you obey the authority that is given to your parents, you are also obeying the one who gave that authority to your parents. You are obeying God, and this pleases God. And you should obey them in everything. Now, this is with the presumption that your parents are also Christians and following the Lord, and so you should obey them in everything. Now, when children honor and obey their parents, this will give them the ability to obey God. Since they have already learned to obey and honor their parents, it will be easy for them to also obey and honor God. And so we learn obedience. We learn how to honor God with our parents. Now, how about when you are still under your parents? Okay, well, maybe you have already grown a little bit. You're already a teenager, but you're still, under the authority of your parents. You honor your parents by also respecting them. Now, the general rule is our parents should get special treatment. They are special people. They are unique people to us. So they must be treated in a unique way. They must be treated in a special way. And so when you respect your parents, you don't talk to them the same way you talk with anyone else. So sometimes we talk with our friends like, we don't respect them. We use words that are not really respectful, but not for your parents. They are not ordinary people. They are not your friends. They are your parents. They deserve your honor. They deserve your respect. Now, this is what I can say to you. If your children will see that you honor your parents, they will also there's also a greater chance that they will also honor you later on. So, practice lang honoring your parents, so that when you already have your children and they will see you honoring your parents, they will also honor you when they are it's their time to honor you. Now, how about if you are living now independently from your parents? How can you honor your parents? Of course, when you are living independently, you are not expecting to obey your parents all the time. Okay? So, how do you do that? How do you honor your parents? First of all, by appreciating them. Appreciating them. You appreciate their effort. You appreciate for putting up with you when you are living with them. Appreciate their sacrifices. And you know what? I'm a parent also. And I can say that parenting is very expensive, no? From the day you are conceived to the day you are born, when you grow up, you go to school, all of those things that we do to you, all of the things that we buy for you, those are cost us. Those things are cost us. Those things are expensive. Parenting is expensive. And so it is just proper that we also appreciate our parents, appreciate them. And maybe if we have the resources, we can appreciate them by treating them, giving them gifts, giving them cards, calling them, continually be in contact with them, reaching out to them. That's the way how we are going to appreciate our parents. Maybe when you grow a little older, you will appreciate when you already have an emptiness, you don't have children in your home. It's a very lonely home. And the parents will really appreciate it if you're going to reach out to them. Proverbs 23 verse 22 says, "Listen to your father. Without him, you would not exist. When your mother is old, show her your appreciation." Show her your appreciation. Proverbs 23:25, it says, "Let your father and mother be proud of you. Give your mother that happiness." So you can also appreciate them by, living a good life. This gives them honor, and this gives them pride and happiness in their hearts. Appreciate your parents. Number 2, if you are now independent from your parents, how can you honor your parents? Number 2, you can honor your parents by providing for their needs in their old age. Providing for their needs in their old age. Now, 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8 says, "Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." Okay? Now, Paul was writing Timothy during that time, and he was talking about the relationships within the home and within the church community. And he was telling Timothy that anybody who does not provide for his own family is worse than as an unbeliever. It is not proper for a Christian not to provide for his own family. Now in verse 4 of that same chapter, Paul was talking about widows, giving Timothy some instructions with regards to the provision of the widows. And so when the widows have no children and they have no family members to take care of them, it's the church that takes care of the widows. But he said in verse 4 in chapter 5 of 1 Timothy, "But if a widow has children or grandchildren, the first thing they need to learn is this." That means the children or the grandchildren. The first thing that they need to do is this: to show their devotion to God by taking care of their own family. They will be repaying their parents, and this pleases God. And so when you take care of your parents in their old age, you are repaying them, and this pleases the Lord, according to Apostle Paul. Now, if you're going to look at the Bible some more, you're going to discover that God also has very strong warnings for those who disobey and dishonor their parents. Like for example, in Exodus chapter 21, verse 17, it says, "Whoever curses his father or his mother shall be put to death." Now that's a very strong warning for those who curses their father or their mother. In Exodus 21, it says that they shall be put to death. Again, in Proverbs chapter 30, verse 17, it says, "The eye that mocks a father and scorns to obey a mother will be picked out by the ravens of the valley and eaten by the vultures." So this is a poetic way of saying he's going to die in the wilderness. He's going to die and not be buried. He's going to die a horrible death if he is going to mock his father and scorn his mother. Again, in Deuteronomy chapter 27, verse 16, it says, "Cursed be anyone who dishonors his father and his mother." And it says, "And all the people shall say, Amen." So Deuteronomy 27:16 is telling us that Anybody who dishonors his father and mother will be cursed, and all the people must agree to that. They shall say amen to that. That means they agree that a person who dishonors his father and mother is cursed. Now, the family is the basic unit of the society. So wherever the family goes, so goes the society. Strong families make strong churches. And strong churches also make strong societies. So kung ligon ang pamilya, ligon ang mga kasimbahanan, ligon ang pamilya, ligon ang simbahan, mahimong ligon ang ato ang komunidad. And so ang pamilya is the very basic unit of the society. Kung maguba ang pamilya, maguba ang atong komunidad o ang atong society. And that is why God is very protective of parents. God is very protective of families because they are the building blocks of every society. And so if you're going to look at the history of societies where, they just crumbled down, they imploded, you will find out that the family unit has been jeopardized. The family unit has been destroyed. And so that is why Apostle Paul was warning that in the last days, this is going to happen. That children will be disobedient to their parents. And that is why the society became more evil. And the society will just self-destruct. Now, the Lord only desires the best for us. Obeying and honoring our parents is one sure way of receiving the blessings of God. Now, today we are honoring our fathers. And I would like to have some special mention with our fathers today. I would like to give you some quotes regarding fathers. One very interesting quote that I found is a quote from Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis. And Sigmund Freud is not a believer. I believe he was an atheist. And this is what he said: I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection. Can you imagine that? This man who do not believe in God can say that I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need of a father's protection. But here is another quote from him that is so interesting. I find it very interesting. Because, Sigmund Freud is not a believer. And this is what he said: a child's personal relation to God depends on his relationship to his father in the flesh. So Sigmund Freud understood that his relationship to the father, to his father, his earthly father, has a bearing on his relationship to God. Our relationship to God draws its context, draws its foundation from our relationship with our Father. So that's how important fathers are. Another one, Billy Graham, once said, a good father is one of the most unsung, unpraised, unnoticed, and yet one of the most valuable assets in our society. And that is why today we are honoring our fathers. We are honoring that special person in our lives who have sacrificed so much on our behalf. So I encourage you, make your fathers happy today. Encourage them, appreciate them, honor them today. And so to all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. And I hope that you are going to, enjoy this day and just be in the company of your family, your children. And this will be a special day for you, and you will just appreciate the things that your children will be doing to you. And so to honor our fathers today, we will have a presentation from our children. They have, recorded and made this presentation in advance so that they can present it today to honor their fathers. And so let us welcome the children's presentation in honor of their fathers today.